don't listen to this alone in the dark. I was halfway down the apartment hallway when the lights flickered above me and stayed dim. Not off, just low enough that everything looked flat and wrong. And I remember thinking I should have taken the stairs instead of the elevator, because it was close to midnight, and no one else was usually on this floor at that hour. And I could hear my own footsteps hitting the carpet, and the faint hum of the vending machine near the ice maker at the end of the hall. And it all felt normal until I realized I couldn't hear the traffic outside anymore, which was strange because my building sits right next to the main road, and there's always some kind of noise bleeding through the windows. I slowed down near the maintenance closet because I thought I heard something shift inside it, like a shoe scraping against concrete. And I stopped walking and just listened, telling myself it was probably pipes or the old heater kicking on. But then I heard it again, slower this time, like something adjusting its weight. I swallowed and said, "Hello?" And my voice sounded too small in that hallway, like it got absorbed before it traveled more than a few feet. I waited, staring at the metal door of the closet, and when nothing answered, I told myself I was being stupid and started walking again. But I kept looking back over my shoulder every few steps because I could feel that tight pressure in my chest that only shows up when you know you're not alone. The lights flickered a second time, and this time they didn't come back to full brightness at all, just that same weak glow. And I heard the closet door open behind me with a slow metal click that echoed down the hall. I turned around fully, my keys digging into my palm, and the door was open about a foot. I couldn't see inside at first because it was darker than the hallway, but then something inside shifted forward, and I saw a hand grip the edge of the door from the inside. It wasn't shaped right. The fingers were too long and bent at angles that didn't look possible, and the skin looked tight and pale like it had never seen light. I stepped back and said, "You can't be in there," and my voice cracked on the last word. The hand tightened on the door, and then the rest of it leaned into the hallway. It was taller than the door frame, so it had to bend to come out, and when it did, I saw its face clearly under the dim lights. It had eyes, but they were too wide and set too far apart, and they were open so wide I could see the whites all the way around. It didn't blink. Its mouth was closed at first, stretched tight, and its shoulders were narrow but long, like its arms had too many joints. It straightened slowly and tilted its head at me, and I felt my legs start to shake. I said, "I'm just going to my apartment," because I didn't know what else to say, and I took one step back, then another. The thing's mouth opened a little, and I heard it breathe in through its teeth. It took one step into the hallway, and I noticed its feet were bare and flat against the carpet, making no sound at all. The vending machine hum cut out completely, and the hallway went silent except for my breathing. I forced myself to look at it fully because I needed to understand what I was seeing, and it was looking directly at me, not past me, not through me, but at me, like it knew exactly who I was. Its head tilted the other way, slow and deliberate, and then it spoke in a voice that sounded like it was pushing through a throat that wasn't built for it. "Stay." The word wasn't loud, but it hit me like someone had grabbed my spine. I shook my head immediately and said, "No," and I turned and started walking fast toward the stairwell at the end of the hall. I didn't run at first, because I didn't want to lose my balance, but I could feel it moving behind me without hearing footsteps, and that made it worse. The air felt colder against the back of my neck, and I could feel that same tight pressure spreading up into my jaw. I reached the stairwell door and grabbed the handle, but it didn't turn. I pulled harder, and it wouldn't budge. I hit it with my shoulder and said, "Open!" and my voice bounced back at me off the concrete walls inside. I glanced over my shoulder and it was halfway down the hall now. Not walking, just standing there closer than it should have been, like the space between us had shortened without it moving normally. I backed away from the stairwell door and moved toward the elevator instead, even though I didn't trust it. I pressed the call button repeatedly and watched the numbers above the door, but none of them lit up. The thing was closer now, only a few yards away, and I could see its chest rising and falling in steady, controlled breaths. I said, "Please," not even sure who I was talking to anymore, and the elevator doors stayed shut. The hallway lights flickered again, and when they steadied, it was standing right in front of me. I froze. It was close enough that I could see the texture of its skin, stretched thin over something that didn't look like muscle underneath. Its eyes were still wide and fixed on mine, and I could see my own reflection in them. It lifted one hand slowly and placed it flat against the elevator door beside my head, trapping me between the metal and its body. I could feel cold coming off of it, not like a breeze, but like it was pulling heat away from me. I whispered, "What do you want?" And it leaned its face closer until I could feel its breath against my cheek. Its mouth opened wider than it should have, and it said, "You saw me." My legs gave out then, and I slid down against the elevator door. But it followed me down, crouching in front of me without breaking eye contact. I tried to crawl sideways along the wall, but the hallway felt narrower, like there wasn't enough space to get around it. It placed one long hand on the floor beside mine, blocking my path, and tilted its head again. I shook my head and tried to push myself up, but my arms felt weak. It moved closer until its knees touched mine, and I realized there was nowhere left to go in that hallway. No door opening, no sound of anyone else coming out to check the noise. It leaned forward and wrapped its hand around my wrist, and its grip was tight and steady, not rushed, not violent, just certain. I tried to pull away and said, "Let go!" But my voice didn't sound strong anymore. It pulled me toward the open maintenance closet, and I dug my heels into the carpet, but I kept sliding. The hallway lights flickered one last time, and I saw the dark inside that closet waiting behind it, deeper than it should have been. It didn't rush me. It just kept pulling, slow and controlled, and when I reached the doorway, I felt the temperature drop sharply. I grabbed the edge of the frame with my free hand, but its grip tightened until my fingers slipped, and the last thing I saw before the hallway disappeared was the elevator doors finally sliding open with no one inside. If you're listening to this, there are places in your building you don't check because you assume they're empty, and there are doors you walk past every day without thinking about what might be standing just behind them, waiting for you to notice. If you have a horror story of your own, please feel free to drop it in the comment section. You never know, the next story could be yours. Subscribe to The Vault so you don't miss what comes next.